This is the Meta Man warning you, don't let them. Don't let them. There's something the government is doing right now. What government? All 7 of the G7 countries, the 7 most advanced economies in the entire world, which is chaired right now by England. And who is the most powerful financial person in England? It's the Chancellor of the Exchequer. And the Chancellor of the Exchequer of England, which leads the G7, has announced his intention to create CBDC. CBDC, you may have never heard it before, but you better hear it now because this is very scary. It stands for Central Bank Digital Currency. Central Bank Digital Currency. Now, the central bank of any country in the world, there's almost 200 countries in the world, they're each allowed to issue fiat currency. They can print some paper and call it money. But now, not just one country, the biggest country, in fact, the biggest 7 countries are getting together to produce and to create digital currency. You might say, well, that's nice, so let them. No, because it's not decentralized. It is centralized. They own it and they can program it. If you look it up, if you Google CBDC, Google Central Bank Digital Currency, you will see in very clear letters that it is programmable, centralized digital currency. Why is programmable so scary? Listen carefully, this is so horrible. If your employer doesn't like you, or the government doesn't like you, or the health authorities don't like you, or you're misbehaving in some way, because it's programmable, here's what can happen. So here's what will happen. You go to work in your country. If you work in the United States, you earn US dollars. If you work in Canada, you earn Canadian dollars. If you work in England, you earn pound sterling. If you work anywhere in Europe, you earn euro. And when you get that money, you can do what you like with it. It is your money. You can do what you like with it. But if what you earn is CBDC, if what you earn is programmable money, then if they think that you've had too many big fatty burgers with bacon and cheese and extra ketchup and mayo on it, then when you go to pay, it might say, I'm sorry, you're over your limit of burgers this month. You must buy vegan only, or you're not allowed to buy anything but vegetables, or you can only buy fruit today. That's what it means. And if they don't like your politics, they can turn off your ability to buy airfare. They can turn off your ability to buy whatever they wish. They can turn off your ability to buy anything. You won't be able to buy eyeglasses or jackets or ties or blouses. They can turn off whatever they wish because it is programmable. It is not only programmable en masse. In other words, nobody in your country is going to be able to buy, let's say, guns, but they can also program it for an individual. You personally are not allowed to buy burgers, or you're not allowed to buy hamburgers, or you're not allowed to buy a large Coke, whatever it is. And that is really scary. Centralized, programmable, it's Big Brother watching you. And they're not just watching you, and they're not going to send police if they don't like what you're doing. They just program your currency. You might say, oh, nobody would do that. Well, excuse me, in England, they make up and print pound sterling. In every country in Europe, they make up and print the euro. In South Africa, they print the rand. In every country in the world, they print whatever the heck they want, and they call it the country's currency. Well, they can easily, therefore, print digital currency. And programmable digital currency, if your country switches to that, then the government or your employer or the health department or the War Department or the Defense Department or any part of the government, if they don't like what you're doing, they can turn your money off. Is this a fantasy? No, it has been announced by the most powerful person financially in the world right now, and that is the Chancellor of the Exchequer, which means the person in charge of money, for the country of England. And why is that important? You might be American. You might say, well, who cares about England? It's because the G7 is being chaired by England right now. And all the G7 countries are listening to England and they like it. And it's in the news. They want to create it. You might say they can't create it. Sure they can. They created the US dollar. They can create the US central bank digital currency. What will they call it? Maybe they'll call it Amerigo. Maybe they'll call it the Eagle. Whatever they call it, they'll call it something. And then your employer will issue that to you when you finish working, or when you sell something to somebody. Your client will pay you in the only currency he has, which is the central bank digital currency. It is really scary. It is really, really scary. You need to follow it. You need to Google it. You need to learn a lot more than I'm able to tell you in this brief video. And you need to vote against any party that supports CBDC, central bank digital currency. It is a horror. It is an attack on you. It is an attack. Now, why is the government working against you? Maybe you don't believe me. Well, listen, by definition, new technology is disruptive. And anytime a technology comes along, even a nice technology, the Gutenberg press around 500 years ago was a nice technology. It allowed people to print books that couldn't afford to do so before. And that means people didn't have to listen to a priest any longer to find out what the Bible says. They could read the Bible themselves, and they were horrified to find out that priests were kind of massaging what the Bible said and telling the parishioners only what they wanted to say, only what they wanted to tell them, and they were using that as power over them. And so a nice technology like the Gutenberg press caused the 30-year war. The 30-year war. The governments and the religions, or the Christian religion, the Roman Catholic religion, were the incumbent, and they didn't want the power to go away. And so they fought for 30 years, and it ended with the Reformation, a total change in the entire power structure of the church. And that's what's going to happen now. The incumbents, that means the giant employers and the governments, are going to fight like crazy. They don't want you to have crypto, and they're going to create their own and force it on you. And if you don't fight back, if you don't vote for the parties that are against it, you're going to be in trouble. I need your help. The world needs your help. Decentralization needs your help. Listen carefully. This is really important. I'm not going to tell you to subscribe and like and all that stuff. You know darn well to do it. This video is far too important for me to waste some time telling you to subscribe and like. You just darn well do it. And you are now way, way, way wiser than you were just a few minutes ago. I mean it.